Not know, this is Pride Month, where the month is celebration of the LGBTQIA, and I only got probably 2/3 of all of the letters now because some have been added that I don't really know what they are. But anyway, we're going to have a good day talking with two guests. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and then we'll have questions. So to my far right is...
Oh, I guess that would be me. I am Carol Robinson. Oh, okay. I'm Carol Robinson. I am president and chair of the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency. So I have the pleasure of working quite a bit with Charles and with Lisa.
I'm sorry.
And go ahead. You are?
Lisa Gould, and I'm a commissioner with CREA.
Yeah, you are. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I'm going to jump in. What does it mean in 2019 to be black and gay? Are there issues that you all face every single day, or has over the last 5 to 10 years, possibly not counting the last 2.5, have some of those issues subsided and there's more acceptance in the community?
Wow, that's a pretty big question.
Okay, so has things changed? Well, I've always worked at a job where I didn't have that part of it, my work life affected, but have things changed in St. Louis? Probably not.
So overall, your work experience has been pretty good.
My work experience has been great.
Outside of your work environment,
Exactly.
may not have been.
No, outside of work, no, it has not been great. But I've worked in retail and now I work for the labor movement, so both of those are very equal. I've never had a problem with those two employers. But outside of work, yeah, you have the whole world probably don't see me as gay. So, you know, it's the dating world. It's you don't look gay enough. You don't. I didn't know you were gay. You know, I don't know what gay's supposed to look like.
So those experiences outside of work have been the eye openers people have around you being gay.
Yes.
And oh, as you said, what are gay people supposed to look like? You know, they're regular human beings. So what is the point of that question, right?
Yes. So.
Carol?
Yeah, I agree with you, Lisa. And this may be, I think, one of the things that Lisa and I and a number of other people obviously have in common. We don't fit a lot of people's visual stereotype of what it is to be gay. And so in my experience, people look and they either say, well, no, that I heard that, but that can't be true because, well, look at her. And I think about it in terms of our experience. Lisa and I have very similar educational experiences. We were not raised to go around looking as if we are outsiders. You know, we both had Catholic school educations, all girl Catholic schools, in fact, and I know some people roll their eyes at that. And I deeply value that experience. And I was out when I was in high school. I didn't get a lot of grief about it. I had some memorable moments, but one has those memorable moments. Yeah, I did. No. now. But memorable, right. But memorable moments in terms of someone not being comfortable with my sexuality and saying something, and then my hearing about it. And that's a pretty low-key experience relative to what some people deal with. But it all goes to this idea of, you know, most of the people that I grew up around weren't aggressively antagonistic around it. They might be uncomfortable. They might say something. And yes, that can have an effect on someone as they're growing up. But it's not this, oh, we're going to beat you up. We're going to do these awful things. And yeah, and those are the stories that people hear. And they're like, well, if you didn't have that, you know, life-threatening experience, then there were no issues. There were issues, but they were kind of wrapped up in the process of growing, the process of developing, going through adolescence. It was just another stressful strain another layer in the process for me.
So number of microaggressions, which is a term I actually hate now, and hated when it came out. To be clear, but people would out of the corner of their mouth say something, but you did not experience the sort of fervent. I'm going to take you out in the locker room and I'm going to do all that, none of that sort of thing.
Oh no.
Let me allow him to introduce himself. Randy, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good.
Good.
So introduce yourself, and then the question sort of is, where are we at being black and gay in 2019?
Okay. Well, my name is Randy L. Rafter. I'm the president of St. Louis Black Pride. Had the term for a number of years now and learned a lot in it. In this role, where do I see us at as black and gay in 2019? I think that we have come a long way, but there's still a long way to go. I feel that when I was younger and being a young man, it was different than being gay as it is now. You didn't see many out individuals. So at the same time, you can see you can see that people are being more accepting of it. It's not one of those things that necessarily that because I was never really hiding my orientation. I was out at 14, so it was a little different for me. But and then I went to a performing arts school, so it was a little. It was.
So you had to be gay because you went to a
no, not necessarily. I had to be gay, but people were more accepting because we were allowed to explore ourselves and our inner thoughts, our inner workings. It was one of those things to where if you're gonna be passionate about the arts, you have to know yourself and you learn yourself through those things. And so it gave me an opportunity to really I do like the arts, but I also like football. I do like to sing, but I also play baseball. So I never had. As you ladies discussed earlier, that I never really had the issue of being picked on per se. And maybe people said some words, but they definitely wouldn't step up to me. I was a force to be reckoned with back then as well.
So you didn't really have that experience of the locker room, the outside somewhere.
I've heard some people say some things, or people will say something, or maybe try to bully in a verbal type of way. I will say I'm lucky enough never to be physically assaulted because of our orientation. But it's definitely one of those things to where I may have been lucky in it, but I know others who haven't. And so that's something I definitely will stress. I mean, in this day and age, we are seeing young people that are dropping out of high school or taking their lives because of being picked on and bullied. We just lost a young man out in Alabama. He committed suicide because he was being picked on in school because of his orientation. So, yes, I'm very proud of the young people who are living within their truths. But at the same time, I'm scared for the young people who are living their truths, because at the same time, it's one of those things. It's like be who you are, be truthful. You don't have to live in a closet. But at the same time, we have to prepare the young people at the same time and saying everyone's not going to agree with you. Some people are going to disagree and they're going to be very verbal about it. Some of them might even try to be physical about it. But I think it's important for us to have that full dialogue. I mean, I think it's the same conversation we kind of have as being African American within our communities. Well, yes, there's certain things that you have to do when you're pulled over. There's certain ways that you have to carry yourself if someone says something to you in an inappropriate way. And those same conversations, we now have to have those dual conversations with our young people about how to protect yourself in those different things. I don't want to say carry because I want them to be truthful to who they are.
So there's two conversations that need to go on. One,
yes.
You're black in America, and two, you're gay in America.
Yes.
And sometimes some of those don't work well together because you have blacks who don't like gays. And I don't know if you have gays who don't like blacks. I think that's a stupid question. But
oh yeah.
Well,
Yes. Yes.
I want to get down that road a little bit. I mean, that's on my second page of questions. Hold on, people. But that's kind of an interesting sort of one of the questions I have, not to be answered now, but how do you choose a church? Because you never know, you go there on a Sunday and the pastor comes out and says whatever, and you're like, wait, excuse me, was that about me?
And then you get up and you walk out of that church.
There you go.
Is that what you do?
Yeah.
So, does anybody want to share their sort of, and for those of you who don't know, I had my daughter on, Aunt Carol, last week to talk about her life journey of how she decided that she was bisexual and her coming out, or not, I should say, in her defense. Mm-hmm. Does anybody kind of want to share their life journey of how they decided that they were what they were, and how did they decide to move forward?
I dated boys in high school, but I was in the Jack and Jill era, it was a big deal back then. And I don't dislike this.
We'll talk after that.
Sorry. But I did have a lot of, that type of friendships, and it was scary coming out, but I didn't hide.
But why was it scary coming out?
Because you are around a certain type of African American people who, it's not, being different is not comfortable in Missouri. I was never in the closet. I didn't get outed. I just have been living my life since high school. I dated boys, I dated girls in high school and throughout my entire life. I've never had a story where I had to physically come out to anybody. I just live my life and do what I want to do.
And so people, they phrase this not quite correctly, but you did what you wanted to do, and how people viewed it was kind of up to them.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with an African American mother from the South who was born in the 20s. So you get to know yourself extremely well. Be who you're going to be able to take care of yourself, be true to whoever you are. So I didn't have to have that concern that if I wanted to be an astronaut, okay, that's what you can be. If you want to be a garbage man, then be a great, nice garbage man. Be whoever you're going to be. So I never had to worry or even think about that, and I still don't, which is probably why I'm not dating now.
Did you feel like you had to take a stand and come out to anybody, or did you just here it is, take it or leave it, as the song goes?
No, I didn't take a stand. I just, if I show up with a female, then this is my girlfriend or my date or whatever. I never even gave anyone the option to question or ask anything. This is who I'm with.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I can share something similar in that there was no big moment. There was no orchestrated announcement. It was...
Mom and Dad, come sit down. There's something I need to tell you.
Right. It was just going about my life, and yes, there were conversations. I remember having a conversation with my dad. I remember having a conversation with my mom, but it wasn't, first of all, I don't think this was news to them. I think they noticed things before that point. But again, they weren't dramatic things. It was just they noticed who I was hanging out with, the things I chose to do. I was very involved early on in different things where women of strong character, one might say, might gather. I was really big into Girl Scout camp. I know. I almost hesitate to say that out loud because it sounds so cliched. But, I was very involved in spaces where women were expressing themselves, exploring their own understanding of themselves in the world, and just being strong women. I will share that my first girlfriend was the head wrangler at my Girl Scout camp. And I know, it's just, but I'll go ahead and share that story. Because for me, I saw strong women, and I was drawn to that. It wasn't a big lesbian thing. It wasn't a gay thing. It wasn't, oh, I want to go get drunk party. You know, all of these ideas that people can have, stereotypes people can have. It was, wow, this is a really cool person.
Yeah.
I want to hang out with this person. I want to hang out with this person more. I want to hang out with this person a lot. Wait, what's going on for me? And that's how I came to realize that, I kind of like women and strong women. And later I realized trans men more than I like some other folks. So it was just that kind of process.
So there was a gradual incline of you noticing, oh, much like Bailey said, oh, there's something here that I need to at least acknowledge to myself. And that is who I like and who I want to be with. Randy, you are from Arkansas, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes. I'm from Arkansas. Yes, I am.
So when I said my mom is from...
Yeah, I definitely relate. Well, 14 years old, exploring myself and exploring what's going on. I had a friend and we kind of explored.
Yeah.
And he was trying to figure out what that was for him, like I was trying to figure out what it was for me. And he went to our baseball coach and had a conversation around it. I was called into the baseball coach's office with the director, and we had to have a whole conversation around it. Now, if you know me, the one thing that you know about me is Randy doesn't lie. Randy's horrible at lying. Randy's really, 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 really bad at lying. My mother always told me, baby, just tell the truth, because lying ain't your thing. just don't do it. Don't do it. And so, in that moment, at 14, I was like, yeah.
We did that.
It happened. And it was one of those things that it was like, oh, okay, so what's next? And at that time, it wasn't necessarily as, it definitely wasn't as accepted as I would like to have been. But at the same time, it was one of those things that was like, okay, well, what do I do now? How do I navigate this? And at that point, it was like, okay, so what am I? How do I go through and try to figure these things out? I mean, I'm 14. You're still really learning yourself. You just start smelling yourself at 14, as my mama would say. So you're really trying to understand and go through those different things. And then I lucked out to go to this wonderful school that you were able to refresh yourself and to do these different things. And the crazy part is I call her my twin cousin. We're born on the same exact day. We're a couple of hours apart. We're born on Father's Day Sunday. 1983, and the crazy part is she's a lesbian. We both went to the same high school, not knowing we were going to go to the same high school, major in the same major. Our minors were both music, but she did instrumental music, I did vocal music. I played football, she played volleyball. It was crazy to have this person that I actually got to have a conversation with about, and to come out to without necessarily being forced to have the conversation. And it was one of our scenes that we had in our acting class that I was able to, we were reading the scene and it was really good, and it was like, wow. I was like, man, to think of the struggle that these two characters had to go through as gay men back in the day. And I was like, I kind of relate. And she's like, I kind of relate too. I said, well, what are you trying to say? She said, what are you trying to say? I was like, okay, cousin, well, and she was like, I am too. It's like, shut up. It was crazy, but at the same time, it was one of those opportunities that for me to actually know someone and grow with someone around it. Definitely something that was also, it was also one of those things that, since I was out there for a treat, everyone in the neighborhood knew. But no one in my high school really knew unless you were in my neighborhood. And I was bussed, so you didn't know, but I had no problem telling you to ask me the question. The interesting part was that the neighborhood, I found my individuals very interesting in my orientation more than they should have been. We'll just leave it at that. When I was outed, not necessarily to be picked on, but everybody say some things and make some jokes around other people. But when other people weren't around, it was a whole nother conversation that they were trying to have with me.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is Fairly Radio, right?
do you? Don't worry. So there is a difference between being and thinking, or exploring. And so there's always been this conversation about I'll use the word homosexual. If you have a homosexual act, it means you're homosexual. And other people have said, no, that's not the case. That if you have an act, and I'm thinking of a wide variety of places where you may have an act without jumping over the bridge, so to speak. What you're suggesting is there are people who, if the opportunity had have fully presented itself, would have explored that side of the ledger, for lack of a better term.
I would say that people explore that side of the legend, and it just wasn't their thing, per se. Understanding that orientation.
But hold on. I'm going to stop you mid-sentence.
Okay.
You said it wasn't their thing. So you now jumped into the society issue, and Carol and I talked about this last week about folks being in their 50s, married, kids on both sides, men and women, and all of a sudden, quote unquote, they cut it off and they go a different direction. So it wasn't like it wasn't there. Maybe societal pressures said not the right time, not the right venue, can't do it.
I think that one of the wonderful, exciting, and really stressful things that's happening.
Don't say question him, but go
I'm
ahead.
so sorry. I'm so sorry, Randy.
And I'm behaving myself today.
Okay, I guess I'm not. So I'm okay with that. But I think one of the things that's happening today is that there is more permission to explore these things. And we are really struggling with that shift because we're moving out of, okay, there's one way to do sexuality. There is one way for you to behave. Now, even if you feel that that's not quite for you, this is how you're supposed to do it. And today we're seeing more of, okay, well, we need to get to know ourselves. We need to explore. There's more permission to do that. And at the same time, people are pushing that. Okay, well, if I get to explore a little bit, why can't I do more? Why can't I do more? And it causes a lot of stress. And I think it's stress in a positive direction, but it's still stress in our society when you have, particularly right now, we see young people talking about things like being non-binary, more people talking about being transgender. This is, I think it's growth for us, but growth can be really painful and difficult. So in terms of what Randy was just talking about, we've gone from, oh, I heard you were gay. Can I talk to you about this? But I don't want anybody else to know about it. It's always been going on.
Right.
People have always been exploring, but now we have a bit more social permission to talk about it openly, I think.
I'm sorry, it looked like you had a thought.
I still find people who want to make sure that when they're around me, I'm not gay. I'm not gay. It's like if I was going to flirt with you, drunk or sober, I would have already done so. So you have no reason to be thinking anything. I mean,
Is that?
No, I think that there's sometimes people think that they have to tell you, for whatever reason, that they're not a certain way. When if I have an act like I was interested in you, you don't have to worry about me.
But what about the opposite? they may be interested in you, and
Okay,
and
but see-
they're putting a shield. They're putting a shield on
That happens a lot.
themselves.
That happens a
And
lot.
see, here's the thing for me. I used to think that I was bisexual, but I am gay. I want to live my life with a strong woman, blah blah blah. So I absolutely know that. But I don't want to be with any woman who don't know herself, whether whatever it is, because it's hard living this lifestyle with people feeling jumping in, jumping out, not really sure, not really, and I am sure. I know who I am. It's uncomfortable for me to have to go back down that road with you if you are not certain that this is the road that you really wanting to travel.
Yeah.
I have female friends that are lesbian that don't date bi women because one, they feel like St. Louis isn't safe for them to be getting caught up in that type of relationship, but no, they don't want to deal with it. Do you like me or do you like him? It definitely is there are some gay women who don't want to know that you're with a guy ever. That's not their thing. So no, I want to be with someone who knows who they are. So if you are crushing on me, you need to be vocal with that. I don't like that. I'm not that, ooh, I'm gonna passive aggressively tell you, hey.
Yeah.
I'm not that, and I don't like that.
Randy?
Well, I'm overly flirtatious, but
I'm not.
a nice person. And sometimes people, in reality, it's just me being overly nice.
Yes.
I'm raised that way. I'm gonna have a conversation with you. How you doing? Oh my gosh, it's so good seeing you. I'm a hugger. I'm very touchy feely, and so with that being said, some people that makes them a little uncomfortable, which is fine if you let me know, or I can tell by the body signs like, okay, this person doesn't like that. That's cool. That's no problem for me. I can adjust for me, but I'm very comfortable with who I am. The ones who I hear that make the most noise about. Oh, I'm not gay, I'm not this, I'm not that, or the ones who say some of the most harmful things, I realize I'm like, first off, bro, nobody wants you.
Right.
I'm going to be honest.
Right.
But I mean, it's within my community, there are some very, very, very beautiful individuals that you can sit back and it's like, wow, you look like Tyson Beckford's brother or something like that, and then I got somebody coming here looking like
We get it.
yeah, and I'm like, well, I'm not interested in you, but thank you for announcing that you don't like gay people. Good for you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm into you, and those people who are here say those things, I'm wondering, like, so what is really going on within your psyche? Mm-hmm. Because ultimately you're telling me something to protect yourself from something else. Or maybe you had an experience or something that happened to you or something that you haven't been able to really reach within oneself. Now, I'm not the therapist in the room. I'm not the... but I'm definitely going to make sure that... I've been counseling a while now to start picking up on these things. Like, yeah, okay, I'm seeing what's going on here. And then also I'll go back into stigma. Stigma has been an issue within the community as a large, particularly within the LGBT people of color community. And stigma has been harmful to our community, specifically when it comes down to disparities. So one of the major disparities when it comes down to black gay men, it's going to be HIV. And when you look at the numbers and how HIV has went down in every demographic except for black gay men and black Latinx men, you're seeing that those numbers are rising while everyone else is either stagnating or falling. And so we need to figure out what's going on, what's happening. Well, these men who sometimes fall into society's pressures of not living within their truths, they end up putting themselves and exploring in some unhealthier situations or high risk situations.
Yeah.
So they're attending different things or going through the different apps or finding different places to explore themselves. And sometimes in those different places, on those different spaces, they're not able to protect themselves fully.
I had Arias Williams on a couple of months ago, and we talked about this topic. And I know he's been one of the leaders in the region around black gay men and HIV, etc. But you opened up an interesting can of worms, I should say, around exploration and using apps and all that other thing. For black gay men, no, for black men who are seeking to explore, is it, I'll say this, and no offense meant to anyone, but I'm saying it this way on purpose. Are they running from themselves, or are, by the methodology of exploring, or are they hiding from the community in their exploration? Oh, I know it's going to be a little of both, but
Yeah, it definitely can be considered a little of both, specifically because
I can't be homosexual. I have a wife, I have kids, I have this job, this major corporation.
And that's what I want.
And
I want the wife, I want the kids, I want the house. So, but I have an urge versus who I want to necessarily commit to, where this is how I see myself in my future. This is what I want to be in, to where I want to be in a relationship, and I have the wife and the kids, and we have the dog with the white picket fence, and that's how I see my dreams and my future. Yes, I might have this urge of sleeping with men, but that doesn't necessarily mean I want to be in a relationship or committed to a man. And so that's where, I hate using CDC terminology, but that's where the term men who sleep with men came up, specifically because they recognize that all men who may be having sex with men are identifying as gay.
Right.
Or are identified as bisexual. So we need to find ways to be able to reach these individuals, make sure that they're protecting themselves.
Yeah. You know, this conversation strikes me, I don't know, some kind of way, as younger people would say, because this isn't unique to gay men of color. Women in sexual minority communities use the same apps, explore in some of the same ways, but we don't talk about it. Heterosexual women who identify as heterosexual, explore their sexuality in terms of relating to women in some of the same ways, but we don't talk about that very much. And I recognize that as highly problematic, because by not talking about it, we make them invisible. And it's this exploration through apps, through hookup apps, through dating apps, through all kinds of things is going on, and going on a lot. And because I think in part because we don't talk about it, and because there's not a history of this is how you do it, this is how you deal with it, you do end up with people who are involved in what some of us would describe as very risky behavior. The other side of that is they're also making conscious choices. You don't accidentally happen into an app. And you don't accidentally happen into a hookup. You know? So I think it's important to respect.
Fell into your lips.
Right. right. I think.
Happened one time.
Well, there was that. Yeah. Anyway, but
9 to 10 when family hour.
But that idea that people are making conscious choices, and just because we perceive some of their choices as problematic, in some cases highly problematic, I think we have to respect the fact that they are making choices, and they're utilizing what they have access to, apps or whatever, to follow through with those choices.
So women are doing the same thing as men. It's just, I would say, even more underground, if you would.
Yeah, it's just not talked about. I mean, often we're not talking about it. Okay, this is not something I do. I will admit that. But the people who are involved aren't talking about it. And as a society, we're not talking about it. And therefore, it seems as if it's not happening, whereas in actuality, it's happening quite a bit.
Well,
But you said
can I push back on you?
Go ahead.
So in today's society, and this is maybe an opinion from my, if it was heard that there are two women out exploring themselves, sometimes I feel more socially accepted than it would be two guys, and those different things. Or I guess because it's some men's fantasies to have or to watch two women or be a part of two. Look. And so, with that being said, sometimes I think it's more, or you'll see the more acceptance of, there's a lesbian couple walking down the street holding hands. That's cute. Versus you see two guys walking down the street walking hands, and then some people are like, look at that. What's this about?
Yeah, I hate when people do.
Because the women could just be friends, but two guys holding hands must be a relationship.
They would.
No, but I'm saying
Yeah.
that there's a way that some people process that in order to accept one literally and not the other.
Yeah. Well, kind of that whole virgin slut idea with women. Either, that is such a cute thing and aren't they adorable? And that's one way of kind of taking away some power from those women. Or, they really want to get with me. I can get those two together and me and that whole trope.
I hate that conversation. What men do to you, baby? What did a man do to you?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I know
Dude, I don't want to have that conversation with you, and they didn't do anything. I'm not gay because a guy did something to me.
Right.
But I think it's easier for women to explore with women because we always have had two women. They have close relationships, friendships. They go do stuff together. Right. So people just naturally just kind of, you can play that role of we're just really good girlfriends.
Two women at the movie theater or two women at the movie theater.
It's just
two guys going to the baseball game, maybe something completely different.
No, two guys going to the baseball game.
I'm sorry,
two guys going to a baseball game.
Two guys going to
me.
movie theater, maybe something different.
Sitting side by side.
Right.
Like,
why they together?
Why they sitting side by side?
See, I never think about it.
See,
I don't either.
That's something that we consciously think about.
Yeah, I never
on a regular basis. And I was like, I don't care about what they're saying, but I would literally have, if I was to go out on a date, they might not feel comfortable with us sitting side by side.
And see, I would never think
they
two
mean
men
you're
sitting.
the guy you're dating on a date.
I would just think that's your boy, and y'all hanging
Right.
out. I mean,
No, but isn't that your orientation based on years of that conversation, whereas other people just can't get there?
I guess so.
I will tell you, there's a guy who I think is amazing, and all these other things, and we hung out times or two, and
so that wouldn't be me, right?
No, not at all. Man, in this situation.
He said hung out a couple of times. We've only had breakfast once.
Really?
Oh, never mind.
Twice. It was twice. Yeah, breakfast. The other time was coffee and breakfast. Yeah. Okay.
He's like, as good as this
we're not making this any better. Huh? No, but in this situation though, they purposely told me like, look, I really like you, and I think you're awesome, but I can't date you because of who you are. I was like, what you mean? He's like, well, you kind of like the black gay Barack Obama around here. I can't be with you because of that. It's like, wow.
See, and I get women who want to date me because I look safe. See, so that's, and I'm not interested in them man on the moon. But but I'm safe, and then they don't because everybody knows you.
Right.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. We got about 14 minutes left. Okay. Safe spaces. Two ways of looking at black safe spaces. Three ways: black safe spaces, gay safe spaces, and black gay safe spaces. Where are they in the region? Which, if I say that, then they no longer exist. But go ahead.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is there aren't as many as people need. I know that I'm doing a lot of work with Millennium Health right now to create programming, intensive outpatient programs, because we have so many people who are in the midst of mental health crises right now. And it's such a challenge to get them, first of all, effective support. Well, no, it's on the same level. First, effective support, and first, support that is affirming of their identities. And this takes a lot of effort, and we have to consciously create that safe space. And it takes all kinds of things, like having paperwork that's inclusive of their identities. I run groups for people who are basically they're just short of hospitalization. And we have to put a lot of effort into, okay, how do I identify, like you may have a chosen name at this point, a way that you identify. How do we acknowledge that and affirm that identity when your paperwork still says something else? So now I'm calling you one name in the group, but then we have to be mindful of how that plays out in terms of everything else going on around your recovery. So things like that contribute to this idea of safe space. Is it okay for me to say, I may be transgender and I'm identifying with this name that is clearly more of a certain gender than the name you originally knew me as? That seems really trivial to a lot of people, but it is huge to people who are going through these identities.
I don't believe that. I'm trying to push towards, I think there are safer spaces, but they're not necessarily safe spaces. Because I feel in the St. Louis region, there are spaces where I can be a proud African American male, but still at the same time not feel safe. And then there are spaces where I can be a proud gay man and not feel safe. And spaces where black and gay to feel safe in those spaces at the same time are places that we end up having to create and make. Like for instance, we just did an event called Sundresses and Polos, which was a cute little day party. Well, we had to create that space. We couldn't just find here's the nightclub that's down the street that everyone knows. We literally have to find a space, build a relationship, to then come in, decorate, set up, and to make that space feel welcome for the community that was to come in. And then there's some spaces like, for instance, Williams Associates has two drop-in spaces. One's Russell's Place, the other is Safe, and that's in North County, to where it's for young people who are aligning themselves. They can drop in there. There's the Spot. Community Wellness Project, where I currently employed. We offer drop-in services during the day as well. And there's some other spaces within the region, the LGBT Center, Pride Center. They offer a safer space for individuals on Wednesday through Sunday, from noon to 7. So those are different spaces that are available that you can go in and just have a conversation, have a cup of coffee with individuals. And I just wanted to get away from and just be me today.
But literally, you mentioned just for the region, out of and I am not a believer. And Carol and I talked about this last week. I am not a believer in the 4.5% of people in the United States being gay. I think there's a higher number than that.
Definitely.
I think everybody's gay.
Well, I'll tell you something. I told my daughter a long time ago. But that's only 4. And so whether you're black on one side, gay on the other, there's not a space that combines a lot of those elements.
Right. Definitely. I mean, we can't even count the Grove.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as and now the Grove is definitely being
taken over.
Yeah. I'm about to start making hats saying "Make the Grove Gay Again."
Right. And I live near there, and I'm just like, really?
And
that's our space.
Right. I know you're wrong. I think when it comes down to it.
But the space has changed because it used to be Soulard was the space. Then it was the Central West End was the space. And now it's the Grove. So the space has moved literally every 20 years.
Basically, yeah. And there's no safe space for people like in my age or profession, or
We're growing the sexy population.
Yes.
That's all I call it.
Real grown. I mean, they're just not like, I don't come together like Carol and I know each other, but there's not a group of African American or whoever in our age group professionals that we come together and have conversations around, you know, work and what's life like. No. So there's no safe space for my generation, and if there is, please send it to me because
STLCREA.com. We'll get it to you. All right. Carol, what?
Well, we end up having to create those spaces and recreate them all over again, don't we? And I mean, that's what we've been doing all along. It's just, as you say, it's changing. Every once in a while we have spaces. We have someone say, okay, we're going to have a bar, and it's going to be around people of color and these identities. And they struggle, and they struggle, and the bar closes, and we remember when 747 or whatever was open, and then we say, okay,
11-3 or
right,
11-5
right.
or whatever.
We remember these spaces, and then we say, okay, well, now that's gone. Lisa, what are you doing this weekend? I need to hang out. And that's what we come back to relying on. And it's wonderful to be able to do that. It also takes a lot to be able to do that. I have to know Lisa. I have to be.
she really does know me.
Yeah. Woo, boy, was that a slip. Okay, so anyway, we have to know. We have to be willing. We have to do a lot, and that can be hard when you've had these layers of, as you say, microaggressions that make us want to just stay home and watch a movie, because that can feel so comfortable, but it also doesn't allow us to socialize, to interact, to find new people to date, find people to talk to, find people to share our experience with and process through it with. And so again, it creates greater psychological stress in our community.
Because you can be out somewhere, no pun intended, being black, but the minute the gay part shows up, that's a whole different conversation.
Well, whenever any part shows up, and I think you were alluding to this, when any part shows up that might not be the group norm. So you can hang out with gay people, you can hang out with church people, I can hang out with academics. But when I'm hanging out with academics and I say, oh, okay, I do research around race and sexual orientation and gender, we can have an intellectual conversation about that. But for me to say, I do that in part because I identify, and these are the things I struggle with, the conversation shifts because not everybody in the room feels that they can create or contribute to that conversation in an informed, effective, and empathetic way. So they tend to shut down or withdraw. And then I'm left with, who do I talk to?
Randy, you were getting ready to.
I definitely agree with you in that facet. One thing I've learned is we have to do more in order for us to make sure that one is part of our own internal community, but also externally as well. I think it's a double-edged. You have to take both approaches. Like for instance, we do every Thursday at Evangeline's, the first Thursday of every month at Evangeline's, we just do a little happy hour just for people to come in and they have some good drink specials for us, some food specials for us to come in and socialize. And it's more of the grown and sexy feel that you will see.
Well, I'll be there.
We're not doing it this month because we have so many things going on because it is Pride Month. But that's definitely something that we do on a regular basis. Or, for instance, this weekend, there's Metro East Pride, but then also we're doing an event called, it's a business-a-thon.
You can go ahead and make that. I'll take the donation.
Okay.
Go ahead and
So we have this thing called Business-a-thon. This event is specifically geared to individuals who are at the beginning stages or entrepreneurs who are looking at to developing or growing their businesses. So this is a really great opportunity for them to go in and learn how to get their business model strategies going, or how to look at how possible ways to get different funders and those different things like that. And this is an absolutely free event for individuals. It's going to be Saturday from 2 to 11. We had there was a lot of debate around the time because they wanted to do a 24-hour business or thing. It was like, no, you're going to kill yourself. But it's going to be at the World Community Center. They welcome us into their space to allow us to use their, some of their spaces to actually explore and to do those. Excuse me, to explore and also to provide those different things out there, because we understand that there's a lot of LGBT entrepreneurs out there. They just don't know how to start or how to get going, or and what are those steps. So it's like, and this is part of our community as making sure that economic development is a true thing. I mean, if those spaces don't exist for us in corporate America, sometimes we have to make those spaces exist for ourselves. So
I want to very quickly. We got about 7 minutes left.
Okay.
It's always struck me that over the last 10 years, gay white men have gotten a pass. And now the struggle that supposedly everybody had is not necessarily the struggle now for everyone's safety, security. Does anybody want to comment?
What do y'all do it? Because I'll be in trouble if I start talking my mind.
Okay. I'll go there. Well, what comes to mind for me is that you get the larger gay community has talked about a civil rights issue for a long time and argued that gay rights are a civil right, and I would agree with that. The challenge comes in that there's been a tendency to pick and choose. Okay, I want to have the right to do this. I want more privilege. I want more privilege for me and my group. And that group has tended to be white, gay men,
cisgender,
middle class or above. So it's been this fight for increased rights for them, with the idea that, well, everybody else will get theirs because they'll be able to tag along. Yes.
It's not inclusive.
It's not inclusive, and it's biting. I'll go ahead and say it. It's biting our current Greater St. Louis Pride Committee in a big way right now, because people are increasingly seeing that organization as not being inclusive, and in fact pushing people of differing ethnic identities in particular off to the side, or only paying slight homage to some identities. So it's like, you can be, okay, I'll say it, you can be our token this, you can be our token that, you can be our token that, whatever. But it is not really our mission or goal to bring everybody up. It's our mission to hold ourselves up and move forward, and everybody else can tag along. And that's a conversation people are afraid to have, but as a past president of Pride, I'm going to say it out loud.
I just don't understand how we as gay, lesbian, whatever you want to have, whatever your initial is, how it still at this day and age, people, I know that cultures do it, I know that races do it, that they pit against, whatever. It just is hard for me to understand that the people who feel the most on the outside look and pick on what looks like them and move forward and try to make that world better, but not all, and don't have any problems with doing so. Not looking and saying, here's all these groups that's the same as me. Same as me. Okay.
Right.
Aren't we supposed to all be in this together? So then you want to know why our society looks
Right.
the way that
I
it
mean,
looks, because it's
I won't pound on other organizations. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say that you can tell by the way that people support and people do things. So one question I get a lot is, why don't you just join with Pride St. Louis and combine the two? And my response is no.
No,
And then
it's the same thing as, well, why do you need a Black Miss America pageant?
Right.
Why do you need this black thing? And why do you need
now
a black
we
thing?
wouldn't have
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
You wouldn't be represented.
Right. Representation is always an issue. When it comes down to, if I was to pull up every LGBT organization's board of directors, I guarantee you that less than 10% of their board is someone of color. Yet we make up about between 33 to 38% of the overall LGBT community. People of color are more likely to be LGBT than white people are to be LGBT. So we're starting looking at statistics and looking at those different things. Representation is key and important, yet you don't represent us. If you have a board of 15 people and only one person is a person of color, or two people, thank you, but at the same time it needs to be more than that. Yeah, and then also in the other things as well, I'll say, well, if Pride St. Louis was willing to dedicate 40 to 50% of all their overall income coming in towards people of color, then I'll have no problem sitting down and have that conversation. But until then, no. And then people are like, well, Randy, that's asking a lot.